Hey guys, we're just going to jump straight into it this time because I've come up with a solution for fixing a problem I identified in a previous video. These are the Xtra speed diff lock axles. They have a lockable diff that you can operate either by hand or with a servo. So if you remember from the previous video, which I'll link here, the problem that they have is this is the shifting mechanism for adjusting whether it is an open diff or a closed diff. And if we take a look here, it's really kind of floppy, wobbly on its own. It doesn't slide nicely back and forth into position, and it tends to lean before it will actually slide into place. If we turn this to the right position here and find the right spot, so even then it still doesn't want to move. And if I can illustrate for you here, it will tip back and forth rather than actually slide anywhere. So I've come up with a solution for that, and it was basically to create a spacer. So you can see here is the rear axle, and I've installed the cable pulley to be able to operate this with a servo. And it no longer wiggles back and forth. So you can see here it's solid movement. I can press on it, it's not going anywhere. And if we push just to check where this is at. Alright, so here you can see it's in its closed position. This is where it is a locked axle. Both sides will turn at the same speed at the same time. And if we release the tension on the cable, it pops back out on its own into an open diff, where each wheel can spin independently. And we can pull it back and forth using the cable system. I can move it with my hand back and forth, but it does not tip, it does not rock. Now the way that we accomplish that, if I take out the cable here, and if we remove the little cover that I showed you last time, okay, so if we take this cover off, if we hold on to the lever, the whole thing comes out as one assembly, if you remember. And in here we can see the pivot that will move back and forth with the lever to lock or unlock the differential. And this is the lever itself that moves. And what I've done is simply create a brass spacer that sits inside here. We can take out, you can see just a little tiny thin spacer made out of brass, so it will glide back and forth easily. It doesn't bind up or anything. And then we slide our lever back on, and we can put the whole assembly back in place so that it doesn't move back and forth unless we choose for it to do so. So that's the simple fix for the Xtra speed axles that have a somewhat wobbly lever. Okay, so we got the cable reinstalled here, and it just simply goes through one end, and you have a spring here, runs through, and this is just a cable sleeve that runs out to the bare end, which you can hook to a servo. So if you do not put the spacer in and you do run these axles, there is a little bit of slop once you get the spring installed and the cable installed. Not as much as there is without, obviously, but there still is a little bit there, and I think only time will tell whether or not my spacer is going to create more stress or less stress than having it loose, floppy the way that it came from the factory. As you can see, I still need to come up with a solution, or rather the parts, to fix the toe in or toe out here. But that's just a simple matter of getting new threaded links, and I just haven't ordered those yet. So that's the fix. It's just simply to install a spacer underneath the cap here, which is where the lever is. So you take off 2 screws, build the spacer to go underneath. It matches the exact same shape here, and that will solve that very loose and wobbly lever. If anybody really needs me to, I could create a template for that spacer and put that up on the website. If you're interested in that, just leave a note in the comments section and I can get that put together. But I think if you were to take the cap off where the lever goes, you can quite clearly see what needs to be done. It's just take a strip of brass, it comes in almost the right width, so just take a little bit off the side, round the corners, create that slot in the middle where the lever travels. And it's pretty self-explanatory, self-evident to see what you need to do. But if you do need the help creating that, let me know and I can try to create a template that you could download and print off and have the exact shape that you need.